You will use what is the joystick underneath the bottom part. People will use their chin for that part of the joystick, but then also the 3 or 4 holes that I was talking about. You will use the quad stick program on your computer to fill out an Excel sheet and create your own gaming profile for each one. And you will set what that feature is going to do when you do a certain press on the quad stick.
Hey, Swag Nation. Welcome back to the SwagAbility Show. Today we're talking hobbies and recreation, in particular gaming. If you're anyone like me that struggles with a disability or some sort of illness or impairment, you'll know the frustration of trying to game or to have gaming as your hobby. Today I've got Zach from AbleGamers with me, who is just the man that has helped me rediscover a hobby that has changed my ability to not only fill some of those times where you need to distress, but it's given me the ability to plug back in to a community who is outside of my house. So, Zach, thank you for taking a few minutes to come on to the show with us and to share what you do best.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm really excited to be here. Thankful for the opportunity, for sure.
We've had a great ride. It's been, of course, putting this kind of stuff together takes time. I am usually a patient man, but when I first learned I could start to game again, it couldn't happen quick enough. But his team has come up with a device that you'll see here in the pictures I'm showing you that has been pretty neat. And so, Zach, maybe tell me a little bit about who founded, first of all, Able Gamers, and how has your mission evolved since the time that you guys first came into existence?
Sure. Our organization was founded by Mark Barley about 21 years ago. He's actually a disabled service veteran himself, and he was really into video games at the time. He had a friend who came down with a condition, I believe it was ALS, and she was no longer able to play their favorite game together. So Mark was kind of like, hey, we got to figure out something. We got to make sure that we can all play games together. So he founded Able Gamers in order to help make gaming more accessible, not just for his friend, but for everybody. The way we've expanded in the last 21 years is we now focus more on working one-on-one with players and figuring out what pieces of technology are available out there for them. So for instance, working with you, we've been able to kind of brainstorm some different ideas on what's going to work with your joystick and your setup. And that's kind of what I do on a regular basis is I meet one-on-one with players, not just from the United States, but also in Canada to kind of figure out what's going to work for them, what's available, and make sure that they can get access to that equipment. We also work a lot with game developers, and we have our APX training, which is ran by Stephen Weiss, and he is a former professor, and now he's full-time at Able Gamers, and he works with game developers and studios and actually teaches them how to make their games more accessible in-game. So we're working on the development side as well as the technology side right now.
Well, and when we're talking technology, like you can't go a month before something doesn't have an update. And you're
Yeah.
talking 16 years ago. Is that what I heard you say was when
21 years ago. Yeah,
21 years
21
ago?
years. Yeah.
So what, I mean, you're a young guy, so 21 years ago. But what was your understanding at that time of who would even be out there on in terms of gaming platforms, and and what was the what did the adaptive aids look like back then? Because I'm sure it wasn't the games at that point that were focusing on accessibility features 21 years ago. Am I correct?
Correct. So 21 years ago, I was 11 years old. So I was not even thinking about
Yeah.
assistive technology or anything outside of my own little world, you know. Even when I started here at Able Gamers, I've always been a gamer with a background in special education. So I've worked with people with disabilities for over a decade now. But it was a lot of learning for me when I first got brought on too about what's available out there. I would say the biggest difference we're seeing now compared to what I've seen produced from 21 years ago, is things look a lot more sleek. They're smaller, and there's a lot more options. I would say previously, um, things were bulky. They may not have worked all the time. They might have fallen apart. They might have been more of like a DIY, do it yourself type of project. But a lot of people, a lot of companies are getting on board these days with assistive technology and adaptive gaming. You've got Brook with their wing converters, making sure that different controllers work on different consoles. You've got the Azeron 3D printed one-handed gaming keyboard. You've got Xbox with their adaptive controller. You've got PlayStation with their adaptive controller, and a company Hori who's making adaptive devices for Nintendo Switch and things like that. So a lot of people are jumping on board and seeing how important this is. Um,
Who were the
yeah,
first two? Sorry to cut you off. Who
no,
would you say was first? Let's back it up a little bit. Who were the big 2, 3, or 4 of the originals that were in the market? There was the Nintendo.
mhm.
I think the PlayStation might have been around in there. So we're talking about maybe 2 of the major players. Um, do you remember or have been told which one of them was of any of the major players in the field, which ones were probably the first to the party in terms of trying to get to look at accessibility and say there's a niche that is not just good for us in terms of financial, but there's a need that's underserved. Do you have any idea who would say would be the first one that would have come along?
There's 2 that come to mind when
Yeah.
you ask that question. The first one is Fred Davidson with Quad Stick. I know Quad Stick has been around for over a decade now, at least. My colleague Aaron Price uses a Quad Stick. He uses one for gaming and one for work. So he's got one at his work desk and one at his gaming area. And he's a quadriplegic himself. So Quad Stick has been there for a while. And then the second one I would say is probably Xbox. Xbox has put out their Xbox Adaptive Controller. They're kind of keeping up with pace today with their new one-handed joystick, their 8-bit Do Lite SE 2.40 controller that they have for people with minimal movement so that they can just set their hands here and press buttons. I would say Xbox and Quad Stick are probably, at least from what I understand, and I could be wrong, at the forefront of all of this for sure.
And Quad Stick, that who uh, does anyone own that technology, or is Quad Stick an innovative company of themselves that produced that, or did it come from a Sony or a Samsung or a one of the big names we would think out there?
I think it's just Fred Davidson, and I want to say he lives out west somewhere beautiful, and he works on all these on his own. So
Wow.
we have a direct link to him, but he does put a limit on the amounts that are ordered on a monthly basis because a lot of people are interested in quad sticks. And they do take roughly a month to a month and a half to be built and shipped out because, like I said, he's the only one doing it.
Are each specific for a Quad Stick? Is each one specifically designed for that user, or they're just when one person's replicating them, it's like a one size fits all, or does he work with the individual to fine tune it to their abilities?
Yeah, so when you place an order, it gives you options for kind of some of the specs that are on it.
Mm.
So for instance, like a strong spring on the jack or like a loose spring on the jack. Some people like to have, when they're using their mouth, kind of have that bounce instead of having to push harder against it if it's a strong one. It also gives you options for if you want it to work with your PS5, with your PC, with an Xbox. So it'll ask, are you using a console or a PC or something else? And then it also gives you options for 2 different types of mouthpieces.
Right.
So you can order 2 mouthpieces that'll come with it. You have 3-hole, narrow and wide, or 4-hole, narrow and wide, and you can order 2 of any of those, and you could order 2 of the same if you needed to. And then also gives you options for like a Bluetooth feature if you're going to be sitting further away from where you're playing in a bed, or if
Right.
you're going to be directly connected to something, you don't need the Bluetooth option. You can just connect directly to the system that you're using.
And without giving away any of the patent, I'm sure that's on it, how, for those like myself that's interested in it, what is the function? Obviously, I heard you say something about mouth, but for those that it's brand new to our ears, I'm showing a picture of it now on the screen. But can you walk us basically through how someone would use a quad stick to
Yeah.
play? Is it tongue? Is it breath? Like, can you explain that as I'm showing my viewers?
Yeah, for sure. It is a sip and puff controller. So you will use what is the joystick underneath the bottom part. People will use their chin for that part of the joystick, but then also the 3 or 4 holes that I was talking about. You will use the quad stick program on your computer to fill out an Excel sheet and create your own gaming profile for each one. And you will set what that feature is going to do when you do a certain press on the quad stick. So, for instance, let's say you have a 3-hole mouthpiece. On the far left, you set up the X button on your Xbox or your PlayStation to be a quick puff. So you would just, and it would do the feature for the X button because that's what you set up. The really, really great thing about Quad Stick, and before I talk too much about, all of its functions and features, is there's a huge Quad Stick community. So people share their profiles online already. So if you want to get on the Quad Stick forum, you're like, hey, I want to play Grand Theft Auto, but I don't even know where to begin to
Yeah.
set up a profile. Somebody's gonna be like, hey, here's my profile I use on PC, or hey, here's my profile I use on Xbox. Feel free to tweak it and do it however you want. So it really is probably one of the most customizable controllers out there, and it's sip and puff. So it's all breath and head movement. If you've heard of Rocky No Hands, he's a streamer
Mm-mm.
paralyzed from the neck down, gets like 20 to 30 kills of a game in Fortnite and is like extremely sweaty on Call of Duty with it. And he's just playing with his mouth. So I would definitely, a little free plug for him there, but I would definitely check him out if you get the
Yeah,
chance.
absolutely. We'll put a link to him in the show notes. And what can you walk us through, whether it's a quad stick or whether it's any other innovation, um, when a client is first introduced to you? I guess, can you walk us through the process of, from someone that says, I didn't know accessible gaming existed, until the time that they have some sort of system landed in front of them? Uh, Give my viewers an idea of where they can start or what the process looks like from the time it's either a phone call or an email is made.
Yeah, for sure. So there's kind of 2 different routes that we can go about this.
Yeah.
The first one would be if you were receiving services from one of our partner facilities that we have around the States or in Canada. So I know I briefly touched base with you last time we met about GF Strong in Vancouver. So I'll just use them as an example. So if you are interested in adaptive gaming and you work at one of our partner facilities, which you can find at ablegamers.org, we have a map of all of our partners on there. They will actually have a base set of equipment that we've shipped off to them or something that they've already had or donated from somebody else. And they will work with that player there to help them find what works for them. Then they'll bring me in on a virtual call and they'll say, hey, Zach, we've got all this figured out. This is what he's doing. We're going to show you how he's using it. And then I'll watch. Or they'll be like, hey, Zach, we've got like 50% of this figured out. We're still working on this part over here. Do you have any ideas? And that's when we would bounce ideas off of each other and collaborate until we find something that's going to work for the player. And then I order the equipment for that player and ship it out to them for free.
Mm.
The other route would be somebody who doesn't go through one of our partner sites, reaches out to us individually, and that's where I would meet with them and kind of assess their needs, the movement of their body, what technology I would recommend based on their body movements and what games they want to play, and also what console or PC they're playing on as well. And then kind of give them a list of ideas of what I think is going to work out for them. And if they like them, we'll move forward and be like, okay, I'm going to order that for you. If they don't like them, then we'll go with plan B and kind of look at some other options. There's just so many different options out there for people. And I always tell people, this is your controller. This is what you're going to be playing with. I want to make sure that you're happy with what you have. So if I'm sending you an idea and you're like, not quite sure about that, it's not gonna hurt my feelings because I want you to get something that's gonna work for you.
Right.
So that's kind of like the 2 avenues or the 2 routes that you would take in
So the
order
first
to.
step would be involving either finding one of your partners, whether
Mhm.
in the US or in Canada. I'm not sure if you're across the pond yet, but in North America anyway. And they will, whether it's an occupational therapist or whoever is on board working with that company, they will look for in my case, any dexterity I had in any hand, what were any upper body movements, if there were any, and assess that first. And then that's when they would uh, come up with a mapped out idea where then they bring professionals like yourself and those that have been trained to then fine tune it, often make other suggestions. And also, one of the great things I've found is that if you meet a certain criteria or whatever, you folks cover the cost of the material and products themselves. Am I off on that?
No, you're absolutely correct. So yeah, we do work with a lot of OTs. So like I've told you before, I come from like a special ed background. So like the movement of the body is not
Mm,
something that I am like fully 100%, fully knowledgeable of. So working with OTs and PTs and rec therapists
right.
from around Canada and the United States has been massive for us. But yes, we do have a grant application that I have people fill out. So it's just like 5 questions on why you want a game, why gaming is important to you. And if you fill that out and send it back to us, we will send you out the equipment for free at no cost to you. We'll cover shipping costs if it's going across the line over to Canada from the United States as well. And we'll even follow up with you to make sure that it's still working. And if something breaks or it's not working for you later on down the line, then you reach back out to us and we'll,
Mm.
we'll, we'll do what we can to make it work.
And is it, I know there'll be questions of those that are watching right now. Is it income geared as to who gets what funding, or is that something that's part of the application process you would work with, or certain amount of income need not apply, or you work with anyone uh, that applies through your site or through one of your partners?
Yeah, so it's not income based. I think before I was brought on, it was previously based on income.
Mhm.
But I always just start a meeting with people. I'm like, are you looking for assistance with purchasing equipment, or is this something that you want to try to purchase on your own?
Sure.
And most of them will answer honestly. Some will say, yeah, I need some assistance with this equipment because it's not cheap. And other
Right.
people are like, oh no, we're just looking for ideas and we'll pay for it on our own. So you kind of see both sides.
That's one of the things that really I think is going to um, be part of our like SwagAbility, our nonprofit mission in here in Canada, and we're registered in the U.S. as well, is to if there are funding issues or there's items that come up that really would open up a person's world, and they can't fit the cost of that we'd love to work hand in hand with them as well. So I'm looking forward to our relationship continuing on and seeing where Swagability can fit in to help able gamers get more people through the pipeline. And if funding is the issue, to certainly come alongside you folks. Is there a I'm sure do you have a lineup of individuals that are waiting to get into the program? And if so, what would one expect for um, a wait time to even start the conversation about the controller?
It really just depends, but yeah, we have a massive backlog of
Yeah.
people that I couldn't give you a number right now.
Oh, it's huge.
There are 2 people that do what I do,
Yeah.
and we cover, like I said, the whole United States and parts of Canada. Um, we are a very small team, so we're trying our best to at least answer questions or let people know that we're busy.
Yeah.
And it may not always work out that way, which is unfortunate. But I could see us definitely gaining more staff in the future,
Yeah.
being able to reach out and reach more people with more staff that do what I do. And this is something that I've been talking about since I got here. I was like, we need more people. We need more people that do what I do because 2 of us covering everybody is a lot. So we're busy, which is a good thing, but
Yeah.
I would definitely like to see us expand our reach down
What
the road.
would what would qualifications, I'm not starting your hiring process, but people that are looking on and saying, "Man, I have some knowledge in this area, or I have some expertise in this area," what would make a good fit for someone to work alongside either yourselves
Mhm,
or another facility that is out there? Because when you're talking, you're talking 300 plus million in 340 million US and 40 million ish. And then you take the statistics of those with disabilities, and worldwide we're 1.3 billion. So there's a lot of people that I'm sure, like myself, didn't even know that um, you could use adaptive aids. So, what would someone the ideal fit be to work with a company like yours or any other partner ones out there?
yeah. An ideal fit would be somebody who has had experience working with people with disabilities or maybe has a disability themselves. So, for instance, I do not personally have a disability myself.
Yeah,
I do have a background in special education, though. So, I think that kind of, and a background in video games, obviously, is massive too. You have to be a gamer. You have to know about games. You have to understand the different genres, different types, different consoles, different controllers, everything. But I would say definitely either having a disability yourself and being a gamer yourself, or having worked with people with disabilities and also being a gamer is kind of like the ideal person.
yeah. We've talked about the quad stick. Can you tell some of our viewers and myself what other products, just off the top of your mind,
Mhm.
are either current or recent past that are out there for them to start looking at, even to thinking I can get back into gaming outside the quad stick. What other product switches exist for people to Google or perhaps look into on their own? So when they get to a facility where they're presented the opportunity, they have a little bit of education already as to what is out there.
Cool. You're going to give me an opportunity to plug some of my friends here, some of my friends
Absolutely.
in the industry. Awesome.
Yeah.
So obviously we've kind of touched base a little bit on Xbox and PlayStation
Yeah.
and Nintendo. So I would definitely look up anything Xbox accessibility related. They have some other accessibility tools that are not specifically for gaming, but some cool stuff to look into as well. But
Yeah.
definitely look at the Xbox adaptive controller. Check out their one-handed joystick that they just put out, and then also look at the 8-bit Do controller that they just put out as well.
Mhm.
They also just teamed up with an Irish company called BioWave to make their Proteus controller. So BioWave's Proteus controller is like this. Um, a bunch of different pieces that come in a box, and you can pretty much build it to be whatever you want. It's really cool. It's really unique, super customizable. So look up the BioWave Proteus controller. And then also check out the one-handed controller from NUAD, and that's spelled NHUAD. Our buddy Charles has been working on NUAD, and I'll actually probably see him at PAX East here in a couple weeks with the NUAD controller. It's a one-handed controller. It works on pretty much any console or PC with a converter. Some of it's just plug and play. And then PlayStation has their Access controller that they just put out, which is, well, it was about a year or so ago, year and a half or so ago that they put it out,
Okay.
which is incredible. It's been really good. And I know you've got one, Steven, and you enjoy using it.
2 of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
the amount of outputs that I had a custom flight stick built for me, but the number of outputs on that flight stick required a number of inputs because Sony was wise enough to put auxiliary
Mhm.
ports into theirs. So, um, yeah.
Yeah. And then I would also look at Logitech's adaptive gaming kit. They have one for Xbox and one for PlayStation.
Really.
And then I'll go ahead and plug my Canadian friends at Makers Making Change, Neil Squire. They make a lot of their own buttons and switches for gaming, a lot of joysticks for gaming. So if you go to MMC Makers Making Change and check out their website, they've got a ton of stuff that they're working on constantly. And then the last one is my buddy Jared Greer down in Atlanta, Georgia. He has his own company called Design by Greer, and he makes a lot of joysticks and buttons as well. So if you go to designbygreer.com, you can check him out too and kind of see some of the stuff that he's been working on. And Warfighter Engaged was a big one as well. I'm not sure if they're still doing stuff or if they went out of business, but definitely go to Warfighter Engaged and at least check out what they have or had because they were massive for veterans with disabilities as well. So,
Have you found that companies like the ones you've spoken about are working with physical materials as opposed to when I first got into gaming, I was able to use a regular Logitech Wingman controller, but then we were using console tuners. Like the Titan was out there, and there was, I believe, another one. Um, I can't remember the name of it. I had it, but then you would go onto your computer and you would have to program what button did what, and there certainly was a mind, an educational process, and even having to program them. Are those, and then of course Sony and I'm sure Xbox must have done it too. They send the signal for a reconnection to that controller every few minutes to make sure their authentic controller is working with it. So no one's trying to bypass it. And I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to be all over the place, but those signals that the either Sony uses or whatever, is it to keep gaming fair, that they want to make sure the authentic controller is still with paired with their unit.
yeah, it's to make sure that you're not using like, I don't want to say a cheater thing because that's not necessarily it, but like aim assist and other things that would help you perform better than how you would normally perform, I guess is the most
Sure.
diplomatic way to put it.
That
um, but I think you were talking about, were you talking about the Cronus Zen?
that
Is
was
that
the
the
other
other
one.
one you were talking about? Okay.
This was, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if they still exist. I know I still have my Titan 2, but I don't know if they're still building them. I know they were waiting to make another break into the market there, so that might be an option, but unless you know of them no longer being on the market. But it was a great workaround while it lasted. But
Mhm.
when PS5 came out, it was very tough. You then had to use remote play, um, through your PC, then through your PC back to the PlayStation. So there was a lot of setup involved, and when you get into that, I'm no techie, but I was finding there was a lot of lag and drag time. So
Yeah.
when you're just trying to play with cousins or nephews or nieces, it was really glitchy in some ways. But what are some of the levels of injuries or even illnesses and things that you have seen that have been able to get back into the industry, so someone watching this can say, well, my injury is way too significant for me to even get back into it. Can you dispel that myth?
Yeah.
And if so, just from brainstorming some of your previous clients without names, what have you seen across the board for working with disabilities?
I would say as long as your eyeballs can move, you can play video games. There's a lot of eye tracking devices out there these days that will allow you to play games with just your eyes.
Wow.
Um, One of my partners, Boston Children's Hospital, who I'll be seeing here in a couple weeks, actually, does a lot of work with AAC devices, so like alternative communication devices.
Right.
And they've figured out a way to use a Praetorian Game on One device that actually plugs into the Xbox adaptive controller, sends an infrared signal from their AAC device back to the Xbox adaptive controller and allows them to do button presses by just hovering their eyes over different panels on their screen that they have. So I recently worked with an older gentleman, I won't say his name, wanted to get back into gaming with his kids and his buddies and wanted to play on the Switch and the PS5. We were able to get him set up with the Praetorian Game on One device, an Xbox adaptive controller, and then a converter that would allow that Xbox adaptive controller to work with the Switch, and then another converter that would work with the PS5. So he actually shot me a message like a week ago and said, "Hey, haven't tried out the PS5 yet, but we've got the Switch working. I've been able to play Mario Kart." And he's just ecstatic. So yeah,
Wow.
there's an option out there for you, as long as you're willing and comfortable to give it a shot.
That's great. And I would say to anyone watching this, put in the comments like what you're gaming with, what your story was back into the gaming world, because I know that can be in the comments. I mean, even stuff that I miss, and I'm not even in the market, but everyone has a unique, different angle they come about something, and even how I work with a controller to show that might give someone else an idea. Uh, you've been with Able Gamers or gaming, probably a lifetime gamer, but with Able Gamers for about how many years now? Would you say?
In June, it will be 2 years. June 1st will be 2-year anniversary.
Where do you see uh, seeing how quickly technology changes and things, where do you see adaptive gaming going forward in the future from where we are trying to adapt controllers and things to where it might be heading in the future?
I would say just the growth in the last almost 2 years that I've seen has been exponential. It's been crazy. I think that gaming companies and gaming developers and any other person in this field is kind of seeing and realizing how important this is, and how many people need assistive technology in order to game. So I think it's becoming more of a norm for some of these companies to have these options for gamers with disabilities. So I would say it's just going to keep growing and growing and get crazier and crazier. I've seen some devices at some of these conventions we go to where a guy was controlling his automatic wheelchair with a mouthpiece that he had in his mouth. So I just see like maybe not crazy ideas, but some really unique and like interesting things on the horizon for sure. And also just companies making things more accessible in general to begin with. So
I think one of the big things that if game companies are watching or uh, industry leaders are watching is it's more than just the ability to play a game for someone with a disability. Speaking firsthand, it's about being able to engage in a community again and get outside of sometimes the norm of not being able to have communication with other people. When you start talking to people online and you start interacting in a social way that you're enjoying yourself, it can change an outlook on a day. It can change a life. Not so much even about winning and losing the game. as much as it is just the journey of being able to partner with someone in the outside world or in another. You've got the whole world in general, but the social aspect it is so healthy for a person's um, their inner self, their mental health, and so I think that is something that um, the able gamers and everyone that's involved with it, just to know how important you are in giving a person like myself and others that will come behind me, not only the ability to have fun, but the ability uh, to socialize in areas where sometimes it's difficult to get out of a house, especially in winter in Canada or wherever you are in the northern states. Um, it's just a lifeline out. So thank you for what you do. Um, it's it's much needed.
Well, I appreciate you saying thank you, but I love this job. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So,
Mm.
um, it's one of those jobs where it's not like you wake up and you're like, man, I have to go to work today. It's like, man, I get to work today and I get to do some cool stuff. So, I've always enjoyed working with people and getting to meet people like you and having opportunities to come on a podcast, which is awesome.
Yeah. I
But
think
yeah,
that
there's definitely a need for combating social isolation
mm,
for people. So it's massive, and not even just for people with disabilities, but people in general. Um, I keep in touch with my brothers back home in Indiana by playing video games, or my friends back home by playing video games. So
I
just
think
people in general connect.
I think COVID in general exposed us as just a society the importance of interacting with one
Hmm.
another. That's absent what it does to the human body and psyche. So, um, massive piece that people are missing. Yes, there's teenagers that lock themselves in a room for 24/7 or 23 hours of the day and come out for air and food in
Yeah,
an hour and whatever. Maybe there's an unhealthy end, but to me, the sky is the limit in terms of um, not only what I think is coming down the pike you would know about, but in terms of just helping people feel much better about who they are and the health for that. And I think this is just 1.0. I think there'll be Enable Gamers, Zach 2.0 to check in on technology and where it's evolved from the time this airs till the time we do another one. Quick
yeah.
couple questions, fun ones. What is a game that you most get requested to have an adaptive uh, product so they can play? What would be the most requested game at this point?
For the younger kids, I would say Roblox and Fortnite are always and Minecraft are always going to be the big ones. RPG game or Call of Duty. Call of Duty is massive. Madden, FIFA, 2K, those are always going to be massive. I've seen a lot more people requesting like the EA Sports golf game a lot these days too, which um,
Guilty, guilty as charged.
I
Love that.
used to play the Tiger Woods games when I was younger with my dad. But yeah, you're seeing a lot more of the golf, which is cool. But yeah, I would say for the younger kids, it's like Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, and then for the older adults that are playing games, it's like first person shooters,
Mhm.
RPGs. Grand Theft Auto, when the new one finally comes out, will be massive for people too. So yeah,
Good. And I think what we haven't even touched on, and I think what 2.0 will be, is what virtual reality will bring to all gamers in particular, but what virtual reality will bring to the disabled individual or someone struggling with illness. Because I know just using the Oculus for me, I use it for exercise using a
mhm,
boxing program, but it's a way to do exercises without staring at a wall. And it's been a plus for my life. So Zach, thank you for taking a few minutes
yeah,
out of a busy day because I know you've got a lineup of people that want to talk to you about gaming. But I've had the best experience with you folks, and I know you're working on ironing out a few minor kinks with mine. But like you said, coming to work for you is fun, and the more complex the puzzle, probably sometimes the more enjoyment there is. So you're
Yeah.
much appreciated, and I look forward to seeing you down the road.
Well, I thank you. I thank you for your kind words, and it was awesome being here. And it's awesome to get to work and meet with people like you. So, thank you for what you're doing for your community as well. And I look forward to coming back and hopefully bringing some friends with me next time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's Zach from AbleGamers. Don't forget, you can do us a great favor if you would subscribe, like, and the biggest honor would be to share this with an individual who you know could benefit from what we do here at SwagAbility, a new nonprofit in both Canada and the US, with the whole goal. Our desire is to see people thriving wherever life finds them. Until next time, stay safe. Swags out.